Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? No? Then sit the fuck down, because we're about to talk about all things hip-hop, late 90s, angry white guys, and much more. It's Marshall Mathers. It's Eminem this week on Nothing Good.
Good evening.
Hey.
What's going on, man?
Not too much. Doc, welcome back to the show. How have you been?
I've been good, man. Been working, been tired, been busy. The world is a crazy place these days. And, you know, we're just trying to keep our heads above water and
As best we can.
make some money and have a good time while we're doing it, right? How about yourself?
Same. Maybe less of a good time while I make the money. But still, you know, head above water, have yet to drown while surrounded by oxygen. So it's good, you know, good time.
You're currently winning.
Yeah, I mean, in the immortal battle of life versus death, not being dead, I guess you could say I'm currently winning that.
That's right.
Anyone listening to this podcast, at least at this moment, is as well, and I hope I don't jinx you. Speaking of the podcast, though, yes. It's come to before we talk about today's subject, we hope our listeners are having fun and doing well, or listener, singular. But so, right. At this point, this is episode 6, dude.
Which is wild.
This is crazy, right? So we're 6 episodes deep now, and a couple of things have occurred to me.
Okay.
That we haven't really mentioned. We somehow have hoped that our listener has stumbled upon this podcast somehow without our guidance, but perhaps
we're looking at you in South America.
Yeah, that's right, Peru. The one person in Peru who's been listening to our show.
This, but thank God you came here.
I just want to just flat out say right now to the one person in Peru listening to us, I love you. I've never met you, but I love you. And if you give me a chance, I can prove my love to you. It may only take a few minutes, but damn it, I'm going to show you how much I love you.
He'll do it.
I swear to God, I will. Anyway, not the point. So let's just say, first of all, thanks for finding us on however you find podcasts. Yes. Right?
Yes. Much appreciated.
But you can tell your friends about this show, or friend, if you're like us and only have one. So there is, you can find us on Spotify, Apple,
right?
Google.
You
can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram, and on YouTube as well. So lots of different ways to assimilate that content. Now, you may ask, who the hell do you guys think you are? And why do you think you need all these avenues for this shitty podcast?
I questioned the exact same thing.
And I will tell you, dear singular listener, the same thing I told Herb. I don't know who the hell I am. It's a day-to-day struggle. So today, at this moment, I'm the person who unnecessarily squirts his podcast all over the collective faces of the internet. So hi, how you doing? So anyway, we like it. So let's just talk about it real fast. We've had 5 episodes previously. How you feeling about the show? Have you felt good about what we've been doing?
You know, it's funny. You asked me earlier how many episodes have I listened to, and I told you I listened to the intro, and I listened to Children of Men, which I really enjoyed. I got a kick out of it, but I didn't really listen to it. I started part 1 in Montreal, and then I kind of stopped. Just busy with work and life, but more importantly, I kind of don't want to overthink what I do, because I'm afraid that I'm going to keep listening and start picking apart what I'm doing. I was doing that during the first 2 episodes. I'm like, did I enunciate that correctly? Did I you know what? Not going to do that. I do plan on listening to others that I think really I want to listen back and kind of catch what I said. But really, right now, how I'm feeling about what we're doing, I'm having a great time. And I'm of the thought, and I'd like to think you probably feel the same way, we will continue doing this until either A, we run out of ideas and subjects.
Never happen.
Which I find very hard to believe. Yeah. Or B, it's not fun.
Yeah, which I don't believe that it would ever happen, because we will talk for hours, microphone or not.
Yeah.
So we'll make it fun.
So what that basically means
we will put the love back into this marriage. Damn it.
So I'm sorry for all of you out there. This train's going to keep rolling for a while.
No, I respect that because I know a lot of well-known actors never watch their own movies. A lot of they go to the premiere, they do the red carpet thing, they walk in so they have the photo taken in the theater, and then they immediately leave before the film ever starts, just so they don't have to watch themselves. Yeah. So I respect the idea of not wanting to listen back to all of it.
Yeah.
I listen to everything that we've done for two reasons. One, as you know, a little bit insider baseball behind the curtain. I engineer these episodes, so I have to listen for any faux pas or audio gaffes that I may have left in. I'm terrified of that. Spoiler: there is at least one that has made it still into to a previous episode. But if you're intently listening enough, you'll catch it. But two, you know, I usually on the day that we record these, I think the next day about what we talked about, and I play back our conversation in my head, and I ask, did I really fucking say that?
Oh, you did.
And I absolutely did. I mean, earlier I used a squirt on the face analogy just not more than 60 seconds ago.
And it's going to stay in.
And it will stay in because I'm not redoing this part of the episode. So that's why I listen to the content, and I kind of just generally need to remind myself that there's a clear line of the people in my life that I simply will never tell about this podcast, just because I don't think they know that side of me, and I don't want you to go, you know, like, why aren't you returning my phone calls or answering my texts? And it's because I talked about squirting our podcast all over the face of the social. I said it again. I have said it again.
You did, and there's no taking it back, so we're just going to keep going with it. But more importantly, man, how are you feeling about what we're doing?
I like it.
Yeah?
I like
it a lot?
We have yet to broach a subject so far here on the show. This is really one of the first times, today's episode, because that we are going to have a conversation together now that we haven't really previously had.
Oh, I don't really think we've ever spoken about this particular subject in any depth outside of, you know, basic surface level conversation. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good album.
Did you check that album out? Did you listen to it? Oh, it's really good. Here, let me put this on for you, and then we bullshit about something else while it's on in the background.
Yeah.
We've exclusively talked about Children of Men. We watched that together. We've talked for Montreal for 20 years.
Yes.
And when we met, we were still sort of playing a Nintendo 64, and we have had since then a few nights where we have played Nintendo 64 together since then, and we have conversations about it all the time. But tonight, to answer your previous question, I feel good because all it is it's like a song that we've played 1,000 times live, and we bothered to go into the studio to record it. But now, today, this is new territory for us as friends.
It is.
It is something that we both ingest separately because, true disclosure, this is the first music podcast that we've done.
Right.
In our line. We will keep doing music, but music, at least and I'll let you take the handle on this one. It's an intensely personal experience to do it.
It really is, and I think that's for everybody. Most people, I would like to think most people, because you know it's art, right? I mean, you can listen to one song and get something from it, and your friend or your mom or your dad or your sister, whoever, can listen to the exact same song and get something totally different from it. It's you know, you can play a video game and level 1 is the same for everybody, right?
Yeah.
You may enjoy it on different levels. It may be difficult or easier on you know, for each individual person, but it's point A to point B. But music, you know, music's different. And you know,
that's a really good point.
I'm not gonna lie or pretend like I wouldn't consider myself a music person. I'm more of a music person than I was when I was much younger. I mean, you being the actual musician in the group of us. No.
Keep going though. Keep going. It's not about me.
But the point I'm making here is that is the kind of the thing. My opinion on music will vary as we progress with different subjects, different genres, different bands or groups or acts. Or will vary differently because you may look at things very differently than I will. Yeah. Maybe on a technical level than I ever would. You know?
That's going to come up today, definitely for sure.
Yeah. But for me in music, and as we get into it and we start talking about like, oh, you know, what did you listen to when you were younger? I didn't listen to a whole lot when I was younger.
No, you know, that's really interesting too. As a point, first of all, we're going to, the way we ingest things as, I think movies are different because we are both storytellers by habit. Even if
unfortunately we are.
Even if we didn't do that as both hobby and profession, I think we tend to hold court in social situations, right?
Right.
So film absolutely goes well, and that's why we like comic books and traditional literature as well, right?
Right.
Because we are storytellers, and I think we both like wrestling because we both dipped our hand into different forms of that as well.
Right.
But music there is an independence naturally to every person on how they ingest music and how they process it.
Exactly.
And it means different things to every person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very eloquently put about the video games, because really in a different way to spin the same thing. It's all art takes you on a journey. Video games literally take you on a journey.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they do.
But where the game takes you from the start of this level or this mission to the completion of this mission, and then how you feel about it and how you play it can be different. But generally, the journey is, the trajectory is the same. It's just how you experience from point A to point B. But no, really, it's almost interesting because music is the soundtrack, and you're making the journey up as it goes, which is really cool. And it's really interesting.
That's a really cool point.
It is. I mean, you brought it up.
Well, pat myself on the back.
So then, as you said, really listening to the music earlier. So, I think we need to just basically say, too, is that my parents, I think, just to kind of take a step back, excuse me for starting with the phrase my parents.
No.
But no one really listens to a lot of music on their own until they get to a certain point in their development. As a teenager or preteen or any of that stuff, you discover music as a kid. And I think you treat music as a kid in your brain the same way you treat movies. As we have mentioned in previous episodes, everybody has those movies that they watched on repeat when they were a kid, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's very similar with songs. You had songs that were on repeat. From Sesame Street's music to a random popular song from the time when you were a very small child. You listen to it over and over and over again. A lot of kids today with songs from Frozen or Trolls is what my daughter absolutely listens to the Troll soundtrack, which again, it's Justin Timberlake, so no problem there. But it's not, and you're happy and you know it. And so I think we had those songs too that were popular at the time.
But I think that's a good point. Yeah. But I think it's it's different because you and I, we're in our 30s, right? I'm in my late 30s. You're in your mid to late 30s.
Yes.
You're pushing it, and I'm pushing it, right?
You know what? I'm just going to jump in here and say for the entirety of our relationship, Herb Jones, Doc here, seems to think that he's so much more drastically older than I am. But he's not, though. Spoiler, he's not, though. So
I am. I am, though. I am, though.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're like less than 2 years older than me.
That's still, 22, 21 months older.
I mean,
a lot can happen in like a year and a half, a year and 3/4.
I mean, they can. This last year and a half, as we recorded this, has been a hell of a thing.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to say, but when you're like, in my age, it's like,
are you close to 40?
Motherfucker, we got pubes about the same general time in the 90s. Okay.
Time. Listen. So the point I'm making here is when we were kids, when we were children, we had our tapes, right?
Yes.
And
tapes.
I had a tape player.
Yeah.
Just one. Didn't have a CD player. My sister had a CD player. She was 4 years older than me. But I had like shit for kids, like adventure stories and shit like that.
Yep.
A couple tapes that maybe had music on them. But I'm not 100% sure. But so that's my experience with music, right? Mm-hmm. And then, my parents, they're 45s, and I remember like some of my earliest memories of life, not even just music, but life, is sitting the house I grew up in, sitting on the living room floor, playing with the records because they were so small,
Yeah, the 45s.
pretending that I'm like a giant. Because I knew what regular records looked
how
like.
Big they were, how much bigger they were than you.
Yeah. And I would just in my mind, it was like a fun little thing that I would do. But I remember listening to Motown a lot in that environment in the living room because my parents, the record player, we had some big speakers in the living room.
Your parents big Motown people?
They were born in the 50s. Of course they were.
Hell yeah. That's so good.
You know, I just remember that was the music I was brought up on the first few years. But the point I'm making here is kids now, like your daughter, being so young, the instant access to music. We didn't have instant access to music.
No.
Like, you literally
we didn't have instant access to music 10 years ago.
Right. So if you're like, let me see, let's put some music on for her. Like, let's go to YouTube, kid playlist, and you will find hundreds of hits for different YouTube videos just with music. Not even counting Spotify, not counting anything on, like, you know, Apple and your iPods and all that stuff. Just simple, instant access that we knew nothing about.
No, yeah. And I think that's, first of all, that's great in theory, right? But let me tell you, for about 20-second detour, my daughter does not want to be shown new music. My daughter wants what she wants. She wants it under the context that she wants, and does not. She is not interested in ingesting media. And also, here's the true fact about my daughter: she hates ads. So
because she has a soul.
She has a soul. She hates all ads. So I have to, when I put music on, do the most ad-free possible content. So Spotify is literally, she knows how to go onto Spotify on our smart TV and loads up the playlist that she likes and just plays those.
I will see your statement.
Yeah.
And I'm going to raise you, and I'm going to butcher it, so I apologize to the artist. Jiggy Jiggy? Was it Jiggy Jiggy?
No. Tiggy Tiggy.
Tiggy Tiggy. I'm sorry. Tiggy
Yes.
Tiggy. Now, my question to you, sir.
Yes.
Let's pretend this is 1988. Instead, there is no Tiggy Tiggy for a young Mr. Brown.
Yeah.
But you know what? Instant access. A plethora of music.
Could you imagine?
Now, Tiggy Tiggy can exist for her.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah, and it's super cool. It's super cool. And it's, first of all, there's a lot of technological advances, and we could go on about society and technology and the pluses and the minuses, all we want, right? But there are a lot of technological advances that I am jealous, not just glad it's there for our kids, but jealous that we didn't have access to that shit. Right. Could you imagine? Just a slightly sidebar from music, what we would have done with the WWE Network.
Hold on, we need an episode just called The Sidebar. But
the sidebar. We just keep going sideways and we never get to any point.
Yeah.
Could you imagine what we would have done in 1989 with the WWE Network? To watch pro wrestling, you had to watch it on Saturday morning, Saturday night, or get your ass to a Blockbuster or West Coast Video and hope that wrestling tape was in stock to be able to watch flat out, right?
That would also necessitate you having parents that was cool with renting that for you.
Yeah.
Because they weren't all down with that. No. And I think, speaking of parents, just to kind of segue there, I think as a kid, and this is still true with her to a certain extent, but you know, technology has opened up this possibility. When we were kids, you basically ingested music in two ways. The only way you came across music was music that your parents were already listening to, that they were actively listening to, or music that happened to be associated with the media that you were allowed to enjoy. Right.
Right? For example, the song Tarzan Boy by Baltimore. Do you know that song?
No.
If I told you where you would know it from. It's the song that ends the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Could be the third Ninja Turtles.
I was like, that 100% isn't the first one.
That's the third one. The Turtles in Time.
TURTLT power.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the third Turtles.
Ninja Turtles. But come on.
But that's, sorry. I remember them.
Don't speak Turtles in Time to me.
First of all, Turtles in Time is some shit. Okay?
That movie sucks.
Oh, it's an awful movie. And I don't know whose idea it was to take a garden lamp and put it on a stick and make that the whole object of the film.
That.
Yeah.
We should cover we should cover first and third.
No.
We skip the second because we need to get the extremes.
We do. But goddamn, the second one slaps so hard. I
mean, it's good, but it's not as good as the first one.
Oh no, the first one's a better movie. Yeah. But 100%. The second one kicks ass in the way that Double Impact kicks ass, as in it shouldn't and it doesn't, but it also does.
I'm gonna just tell you that even as a kid, I liked the second one because it was Ninja Turtles, and I was gonna digest all Ninja Turtles media and product. But honestly, even as a kid, I just was like not super impressed. It felt, even then, it felt like not lazy. Again, that's a terrible word to use. That's not what I was thinking as a small child. it felt, this is not even about Ninja Turtles. I'm sorry, folks. I should save that for that episode.
Yeah.
But it just felt like they were stretching. Like,
yeah.
As okay, so anybody
like
who knows me
in
knows that, like, you know, as I got older and through college and I got into screenwriting, right? So, but the interest in dialogue, the interest in storytelling was there when I was a little kid, right? And just really digesting something and going, it's not great dialogue, right? It's not good. It's not the story beats. The whole movie was not bad, but man, the second one was gritty. The second one felt like it had real stakes that weren't end of the world stakes.
You mean the first one?
Yeah. First one.
Just clarify.
It felt gritty. Yeah, it felt gritty.
Oh, it was.
It felt like it had some weight to it.
I would say.
And the world wasn't at stake.
No, and I first of all, there's a lot of things I liked, and Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze.
Secret of the Ooze,
is one of those
folks.
films that hits me. Like, I am aware that back in the day, I definitely did this, and it took me until I was a teenager to realize it. That if I like something for whatever reason, I am able to justify enjoying it, even if it's terrible.
Well, nothing wrong with that, yeah.
And Ninja Turtles 2 is one of those movies. And I recognize that there is nothing good or logical. The first Turtles movie is objectively a good movie.
It is. It had no business being good.
Yeah, had no business being good. It was well done. It was dark, but the acting was great. When Leo is sitting outside the tub, and he's like, you know, that whole contemplation. Yeah. You don't got a soul if you don't feel that.
He's like his
right?
brother. He don't know what's gonna happen to Raphael. He's just sitting and knowing that the last conversation they had, they got into a fight.
Yeah,
and that, like, everybody past a certain age has been there. Not in like end of the world, the person might die, but like, you got into a fight with your sibling or your mom or your dad, and then maybe something happened, and you're like, "Fuck."
Yeah,
and you gotta live with what you said.
Yeah,
you know, and that's where for a little kid's movie, that was some heavy shit.
And it's dark. It's, to me, the first Turtles movie is a real similarity to the first Batman movie, right? Which, when you think about Batman on the surface, that's a bullshit, right? Right, and I am more fascinated now as an adult with how fucked up Bruce Wayne is than anything that
not
Batman
a normal
does,
person.
Right? No. Who the hell goes through those steps? But the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton is again objectively completely kick-ass. I mean, Prince soundtrack. The soundtrack of that movie alone, I would do an entire episode on.
Well, maybe we will.
Yes. Oh God, dude, we just play it in the background while we argue with each other.
Copyright strike.
But I feel like the Secret of the Ooze would be not Batman Returns, because Batman Returns kicks incredible amounts.
Oh, that movie is really good.
It's really good. I would say it's closer to Batman Forever. Batman Forever is a shitty movie. Okay. But there are you can find parts of Batman Forever to go, God, that movie was shitty, and there's no reason for me to want to say, but you know what? Nicole Kidman, though, in that movie, like, I've never wanted to be a pair of bed sheets until I saw her in that one scene where Val Kilmer. And first of all, how much of a fucking square is Bruce Wayne / Batman that he shows up? Nicole Kidman in 1996. Nicole Kidman has nothing on but a 800 thread count set of sheets.
Specifically,
walks up to him and it's the world is his right there, and he's like, "But guess what, though? I'm out of here." And then he's like,
in the most Val Kilmer way possible.
He should have hit it and stayed there. And while Jim Carrey's freaking out in some sewer, and Tommy Lee Jones is doing the worst Tommy Lee Jones in history.
Terrible.
Like, I have no idea what the fuck is wrong with Tommy Lee Jones in that movie, because he's Tommy Lee Jones in everything else except that movie.
That movie got Schumacher.
I would have let Gotham burn and never left. I would have sent Alfred out for a case of Gatorade and some bananas or something just to get energy back in my body, so I didn't have to leave that fucking room. God damn it, Batman. And you know what? If you're offended by the fact that I think Bruce Wayne is just a fucking square piece of shit, he absolutely is. What the fuck have you been injecting?
He's a goddamn chode, man. And I don't use that word lightly.
I don't know how we started off on music and got to banging Nicole Kidman and Batman Forever.
I mean, you did. Listen, we're like 20, almost 25 minutes in, we have not touched the fucking subject. I apologize.
No, there is no apologies. Okay, I'm sorry, but not to you, Herb.
To be fair, I'm apologizing to our friend in South America. It's in Peru.
To the one in Peru. Listen, the offer is still on the table. Come on up here to America and let me just ask I'm going to leave it open-ended, and I'm not going to go any further.
Okay.
But this is the question I have to our friend in Peru. Have you ever seen how you roast a pig?
Yes.
Okay. But keep going. That invitation's still there to the person in Peru.
Okay, good. So let's talk about...
Before we get into that for 1 second, no.
Before we get to the actual subject.
Before we get to the main event, this is what we do. Doc, let's set the mood for our listener, as is tradition here.
Uh-huh.
What are we drinking today?
Well, currently I am well over 3/4 the way through a bottle of Southern Tier Harvest Autumn IPA.
Yes, that's what we're drinking.
Honestly, it's okay.
Yeah, no.
I'm not impressed.
So
it's not bad, but I'm not impressed.
As you are ingesting this episode here in September, to me, that is the perfect transition time between the IPA and lemon Hefeweizen style summer beers that we get into the richer Oktoberfest, fall beers.
Yeah.
So when I saw this, I was like, this kind of represents this time of year. It's not as hot as it was last month. It's warmer than it'll be next month. So let's get that IPA of the summer in there with the Oktoberfest. So, I mean no disrespect to the fine people at Southern Tier, but I think it is neither an autumn beer nor an IPA.
Like it's just
it lacks identity.
It's not bad. That's all I can say about it. It's not bad.
No.
It's very beer.
It is, yeah.
It's nondescript.
It is. Has no character.
Yeah, it's just it's not bad.
It has
I'll drink
no
it.
character.
I mean, I'll drink a beer. Few beers I won't drink, so.
There are only a few. This is wet, so we will drink it.
Mm-hmm.
But to the main event of today's show.
Yeah.
We are going to discuss Eminem, Marshall Mathers.
Right.
But we're not just going to talk about Eminem because, we're half an hour in, and we have talked about literally not
everything else but.
God damn, dude. Like, I'm not going to be able to get Nicole Kidman in that movie out of my head. But regardless, to talk about Eminem and how it happens, we could give here's a rundown of his entire story, and we're not going into that.
Nah.
And we're not going to do that kind of research that we did for Children of Men.
That'll be a rare... it may not be a rarity.
No, we'll probably do that for every movie.
Research.
Yeah,
to be honest.
It's fun to watch a movie and then make notes and then talk about it, or watch it semi-recently and reminisce on it, especially if you feel away. And most of the pro wrestling stuff we talk about, we actively lived through and,
yes.
and talked about while it was happening. We talked about years after it happened, and we just talked about it yesterday, probably. So, but music, as we said earlier, it's an intensely personal thing. Mm-hmm. Most music that most people listen to, that is of any substance to them, they listen to alone, or at least in a more intimate setting.
This is true.
Not talking about EDM and you're out there just with a bunch of other people rolling their ass off with pacifiers in their mouth. This is a lot of stuff you ingest. So in order to talk about where Eminem comes in to our story, I'm going to ask. We're going to discuss generally hip hop. And how it came into our lives and the culture and how we moved in that direction, from the start. I think that's a fair. Do you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
So let me ask you this, Doc. What is your first time? What is your first memory of hip hop or rap?
All right. So, like I said, early life. And to put in context, so I grew up in a 4-person family.
Yeah.
Mom, dad, one older sibling, and that's pretty much it. So, and it was a older sister. So her musical tastes were not mine. Mm-hmm. And she was like New Edition and stuff like that.
Oh, it's really interesting because Bobby Brown's going to show up in my story too. But keep going.
Yeah, so she was like into that stuff, and so where if I had like maybe an older brother. And I could maybe steal his cassettes or something like that, or his CDs. I didn't really have that option because she was into Genuine.
Pony.
Yeah, she had that man's posters all over her walls. I remember calling her out.
For a second there, I thought you said it to imply as if they still were there.
No, they're not. I haven't been to her house in a long time. Maybe she moved them.
Yeah, maybe she should. You know what? Put a pin in there for a Christmas idea. Keep going.
That's a really good idea, actually. Get a framed picture of Genuine.
You know,
from,
you
like,
probably
96.
get a Genuine for Cameo. You get a Cameo from
God.
Genuine. Like,
Listen, I hope she never listens to this.
she's not going to listen to
She
this
probably
by
won't.
the time you get her that.
This is true.
But you can probably do it for like $50.
So yeah. So for me, and being, we're talking. I was born in '82. So when rap was really becoming more mainstream on like MTV, like more often.
Yo, MTV Raps.
I didn't watch a lot of that stuff. One, because we didn't have cable, so I didn't really have the option to watch a lot of that stuff. A lot of my intake of rap, hip hop in general, was on the radio in the car, which is, I think a lot of kids spend most of their time listening to music when they're really young, is in the car.
Yeah,
traveling
around.
And living here in Pittsburgh, there was a lot of whammo pretty much all the time. I don't think my parents really ever changed the station growing up. It was almost always whammo, which is R&B, rap, hip hop
For sure.
So almost all of that, all of my experience, because my parents didn't listen to that stuff in the house. They listened to oldies in the house. So beyond that, at friends' houses, go and hang out. They may have an older sibling who has some CDs or a cassette, and you might be able to hear a little bit here and there. So growing up, I was like I said earlier, like 20 minutes ago, I was never a huge music person because I just didn't have many avenues to take it in. However, I can tell you the very first like rap album I ever owned that I'm pretty sure I didn't steal from somebody. I feel like they gave it to me because I didn't buy it. There's no way I was able to buy this because I was way too young. Mm-hmm. But the Boys in the Hood soundtrack.
Oh.
I own that. And I remember taking it, my sixth grade graduation trip, we went to D.C., a whole group of us, through the school. And I remember listening to it on the bus ride down there. Totally should not have been listening to it. Some of them songs, not child-friendly, not family-friendly. It was very mature. But I remember just, that was, the most I'd ever listened to so much more, the swearing, the objectification of women. And not every song was like that. There's just some R&B jams in there as well. But, there's a couple songs that were a little harder edged, and I was like, man, I was digging it. I was into it. No idea what the hell I was even listening to. I mean, honestly, 1995, actually, is when that happened.
That's a good time.
But
That's a good time for hip-hop, though.
But growing up, I mean, I did listen, once we started getting cable, I started watching more MTV. I started watching BET. I started becoming more in tune with, your MC Hammers and stuff like that. I started digging into Nate Dogg. I started digging into
Regulators.
Yes.
No.
I ended up. I want to say that this I actually got from my cousin. Was the Bratz first album? It was old by this point.
Yeah.
Because we're talking 1996, 7-ish, and I had it on cassette.
Starting to get to
And I listened to that a lot, and then eventually, and this is a lot of my music as a kid. Like, you usually get albums well after they came out.
Yeah.
Hand-me-downs, or you found it, or you traded. Reasonable Doubt by Jay-Z. My first rap CD that I owned. And man, we were, lift off. I was like, this is what I'm here for.
Yep.
And I love that album. I haven't listened to it in forever.
No, there's I have often found going back and listening to those formative records, whether they be hip hop or rock or anything, there's one of two reactions. It's cringe, or you're just it just transports you straight back to where you were when you first felt it.
Now, what about you?
So I have a family of 6, but I'm the oldest of all my brothers and sisters. So generally my exposure... So as I said earlier, my exposure to music was based around my parents or whatever songs were in the movies I was allowed to watch. But my parents are musicians, right? And they are very rock and roll, pop-oriented people. Nobody listened to hip-hop voluntarily, and I don't think either of them still do, right? But my first time being fully and growing up in the 80s into the early 90s, that's when hip hop started to appear on TV shows. Theo listened to it on The Cosby Show, right?
That's right.
The Fresh Prince. And so I honestly say, what's the first rap song that you ever heard and recognized was probably either the theme song for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
There you go.
Right?
That's a good call.
Or Bobby Brown's song from Ghostbusters 2. At the end of the Ghostbusters 2.
Wait. I'm sorry. I didn't cut you off.
No.
But save that right there.
Paused.
The very first hip-hop song I remember now, it just clicked.
Yeah.
Was, I don't remember what it's called, but it was Will Smith's Nightmare on Elm Street song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was it. 100%.
I have a just sidebar about that song. I did not hear that song until like 1993, right?
Okay.
92, and it was Halloween night, and I was driving around with my cousin who's much older than I am, and they were listening to some radio station that was playing, and they played that song, and it terrified the shit out of me.
Like, yeah, if you're a little kid and you're already like prone to being scared a little, maybe not easily, but easier, that's kind of a creepy song.
Oh, full on. And yeah, now when I hear it back, I'm like, ha!
Yeah.
But then I think I might have legit peed a little when I heard that.
I'm sorry, but go on. I just want to throw that out there.
So it was Bobby Brown's the song from Ghostbusters 2 or Fresh Prince. But so you hear of hip hop and you hear those songs, and I admit as being unversed at that I thought I did not know the difference between New Edition and Bobby Brown until later on.
There was a difference.
There was a significant difference, and you can hear Bobby Brown, just for some reason he took his shirt off and then his voice dropped all at the same time. So now when you listen to New Edition, it sounds like Bobby Brown doing the chipmunk thing. But for me, my first remembering ingestion of saying, oh, okay, was in the early 90s. I think it was 91. There was a movie that came out called Nothing But Trouble. And it stars Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, Demi Moore, and John Candy.
That movie is a fucking underrated gem of a film.
It certainly is. And a theme that will pop up as we talk about the early 90s and late 80s. My father is an amazing man.
Can concur, he is.
Who we can absolutely could say took me to a lot of movies I shouldn't have seen way earlier than I should have seen them. Like, I think I saw as many boobs as I see today when I was like 5, watching every bad action movie that came out in the theater I saw. And there were titties in all of them.
There you
go. And thank you, Dad, for that so much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I mean, we'll talk about... I want to do a Jean-Claude Van Damme episode, or at least one particular movie, just so I can talk about the tits in those movies when I was 5. But we saw Nothing But Trouble. And there's a scene in the movie, Nothing But Trouble, where Dan Aykroyd plays this old, funny, crooked judge in the middle of junkyard nowhere. And they bring people in, and then he hilariously tortures them. And trust me, it's funnier than it sounds. But he brings in one of the scenes the Digital Underground, and they're and in a very in the most white person thing that I think I've seen at that point in my life. They're like, hey man, and I'm doing my best Humpty Dumpty impression. It's like
let's listen to Noah Butcher get another impersonation.
I could pull my nose. I don't know. I can't do it. I can do it in my head, but not there. But it was like we're a hip hop group. And Dan Aykroyd's like, what's that? And then they do...
All around the world, same song.
Right? And they nailed it.
Everybody remembers that.
That song. And I danced in the theater.
Oh, God, no.
While that happened as a kid. It's not like full-on little kid dance. But
no, it's too late. You danced,
I was like, And I didn't even know that's what I was doing. But I really liked it to the point where I used to watch... that was the reason I discovered MTV. Because I was told that I was told that was rap, right, by my cousin, and that they played rap during certain times on MTV. So I watched MTV Raps for a long time to try to catch that song because I didn't know. I was a little kid, so I didn't know what it was called, who it was by.
That's amazing.
And I thought I was just never gonna. But I used to watch it because I love that song until my dad came home knowing that I was watching this. And thank you, Ron Brown, for leaning into this instead of being that angry white dad that could be like, "You're not listening to that stuff." He came home with a couple of packs of trading cards from Yo MTV Raps.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah, and he handed these to me, and in the first pack, there is a Digital Underground card.
That's wild.
And I recognized, and there and then I knew who they were and what they were, and I was able to look for the song. And I still never found it.
You probably fucking never found it.
If you don't believe it's on my fucking Spotify right now, you know, it's under the playlist 90s, right, for me. But yes, he got me those, and so I was able to recognize that the Digital Underground was a thing. And that pack, though, started to I realized that I knew a bunch of other rappers or a bunch of other hip hop acts from the time, right? Heavy D and the Boys, right? I'd recognize that. LL Cool J, right? I knew that. I knew that video from watching MTV Reps, but I was so busy. Like, if it wasn't that song, I was only half watching for a while. Until, here's the thing that really, this is where it kind of comes in. You talk about the Boys in the Hood soundtrack, right? Mm-hmm. Ice Cube, It's a Good Day. Okay. But Ice Cube, there was something, I saw that video and I remember that video distinctly, right? But I don't know, I cannot remember for the life of me if it was NWA or if it was another one of his songs from that era of early 90s, right?
Right.
But I saw an Ice Cube video that I remember distinctly not being scared at the time. But for a while after that, I would have nightmares of Ice Cube yelling at me. Not like that he was threatening me, but that he would be yelling at me the way my dad would yell at me, the way that I would do something wrong, which is ironic now because that motherfucker makes family movies. And now it's
so strange
it's
sometimes.
We'll get to that at some point on our podcast as well. Hardcore rappers now making family friendly, and Snoop Dogg with Martha Stewart. That's a whole separate thing that I used to have nightmares about Ice Cube, but that was the start. And so, which I'm really grateful for this, that hip hop then went from having its own sectioned off area in MTV to being Tupac. Thank you, Tupac and Biggie, for this. It started to become more mainstream. Yes. And I think hip hop inspired pop and R&B, and R&B becoming more poppy in general with like En Vogue and Salt and Pepper and TLC, right?
Yeah.
And that's awesome shit that
some old school crushes I had when I was growing up, man.
God, dude. The entirety of En Vogue, right?
I didn't say one specific.
No, the entire.
TLC. Those are good days.
Yes, great days.
Good music.
Oh, so good too. But with that advent, and it became the regular norm, which allowed the first hip hop album I ever bought with my own money.
Which was?
First of all, to go back 1 sec, the first hip hop I was ever given was a tape of the Addams Family Returns soundtrack.
Okay.
Because MC Hammer had the Addams Family rap, which I did a dance to at my kindergarten talent show. Thank you very much. So that was my first hip hop tape. I would also eventually get the single from Secret of the Ooze soundtrack of the Yo Ninja Go rap, the Ninja rap from Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
And that entirely encompasses all of the Vanilla Ice talk from today.
Thank God.
Yeah.
No offense, but thank God.
No thank, Mr. Van Winkle. We're out of here though. You can go keep remodeling houses. But for me, so MTV used to have to, back in the day, kids, MTV used to play music. And they not only did they used to have music on MTV.
Legend has it.
They used to have live performances on there. And there was a series of live performances called MTV Unplugged that were basically acoustic shows for everything. And the first, I don't know if it's the first one, but it's the first one I ever saw for hip hop was Jay-Z Unplugged. And I watched that. I don't know why I managed to catch it from the start, but I watched that entire damn show, commercials and all, all the way through, to the point where I was absolutely blown away by how amazing it was and how excellent it was, to the point where, this is back when that aired, that day you could go to a record store or a CD store.
Sam Goody.
It was FYE for me.
I remember FYE.
Or FYE, as we used to call it.
Or you could call that.
I wonder why it never caught on.
Nah.
But I went there that day. Like, it was like, the next day after school. And I bought Jay-Z Unplugged. It was like $20, which was expensive for a CD at that time. And I played that thing until it got so scratched that you couldn't get through one whole song without it going crazy. But to me, that was my first real, with the exception of It's a Hard Knock Life, I didn't know a lot of Jay-Z until that point, but that entire catalog, you better believe I eventually purchased all of it.
Yeah.
and that takes me to my next question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had the first album you've owned, your first concept here of hip hop, and first one you bought with your own money, first record you were given. When's the first time, if you could pick a song or a moment where you were like, this is cool as fuck? Like, and growing up in a rock and roll thing, there is a vibe that comes with hip hop and rap that does up to that point at least didn't exist in rock and roll. And I'll tell you mine. Mm-hmm. It was on that record. It was on that show was the very first time I ever heard Big Pimpin'. And on that CD, that version of it was the first time I played that so much until I got the actual record. And I bought the single first of that. I played that. To me, that was like literally the coolest shit and vibe I'd ever heard of in my entire life. I played that shit all the time. And to me, and here's the thing. On a sidebar, that coincides with me ingesting Star Wars for the first time, like that time in my life, to where I thought if Han Solo was a song, he'd be Big Pimpin'. And to me, I'm just like, oh, that's so cool. That all this thing needs is a black vest and to shoot first in a seedy bar in Mos Eisley. But to me, it was hearing Big Pimpin' for the first time. I'm like, oh, this is some cool ass shit. So what is one or some of your first moments of hip hop really kind of crossing that threshold? I'm like, okay, so this is where it's at.
So to answer your question, the first time that I can remember, again, and this is not exclusive to this one moment, obviously, there have been multiple moments since then. But the running theme is, well, although this is about Eminem, Sean Carter really shaped my opinions on rap.
Yeah.
Like a lot. For better or worse. I mean, he's one of the greatest rappers alive. So
flat out.
He may not be like the most lyrically, technically talented, although he's incredible. But my man is good at double, triple, quadruple entendres. It's easy for him.
You could go. Oh yeah.
But one of my favorite albums of all time, which I think is probably a favorite of a lot of people around our age, is The Blueprint. Mm-hmm. And do I listen to The Blueprint so very much growing up? I remember I bought that album when it came out because I was so pumped. I was so excited. And rightfully so, because that album was, in my opinion, far superior to Reasonable Doubt. Like, far superior on every level.
That's okay,
to
though.
me.
It's not to say Reasonable Doubt isn't a great record.
It's nothing wrong with it.
No.
But anyhow, if I recall correctly, Heart of the City. Man, I don't know. Again, not being a huge music person, I didn't listen to a ton of music. So hearing an introspective Jay-Z on that level, because that song is very like, he's not talking about like being rich. He's just talking about the problems, man. Yeah. He's talking about like, every day I wake up, somebody's got a problem with Hove. Like, the beat's so good. Like that jam.
Oh, God, dude.
Oh, dude. Like, I just like, oh, fuck.
Oh, dude.
This song is like killing me. It's so good.
I first of all, I felt like that one song, right? Or at least like pick any one song from The Blueprint, right? Inspired the entire soundtrack for every EA Fight Night game that came after, because all of them are basically sampled just like Heart of the City is, right? With that, here's an old Motown song that we added some bass to and a new drum track, and that's how we're sampled, and there it is. And the snare is just a little bit more clicky than, it's so good, dude. I feel like I bought a new pair of headphones. I'm sorry, when the Blueprint came out, right?
And it was needed.
Yeah.
And I actually, I didn't say, I think it was my first set of noise cancelers.
Okay.
I think I got around the same time that album, because you needed it. One of my favorite little snippet of a verse, lines in that song: "What you eat don't make me shit. Where's the love?" Like, man, So if I'm driving around, I'm listening to some music, stuff's on shuffle on Spotify or something, and then that jam comes on, I turn it. I instantly just turn whatever. It doesn't matter what volume I was at. I'm turning it up a little more.
Yep.
Because it's a good song, and it makes you think a little bit, and it gives you a snapshot into the mind of Jay-Z specifically, without like a lot of like the superficial bullshit, and I dig that.
I would, and I know we're supposed to be talking about Eminem.
We're getting there,
and we will. We are
50 minutes away. In. We're getting there.
We will.
As we speak about him for 15 minutes, then the podcast is over.
Right? You're like, yes, Eminem, you good? All right, we're out of here. No, but I always kind of equated Jay-Z to he's like a painter, right? I mean, there's technique there. It's like not like a classical painter, like these technical painters, almost like a Van Gogh, where what he's painting, but it's not the finished picture that you really need to look at. It's how he got there. And what, Starry Night, right? And that's a starry night. Sure it is. But I mean, it's the technique and the ground broken on the way there. That's a hell of a thing. Versus where you could put our subject today as so lyrically based. Eminem is so lyrically based that he could be equated like a classical writer, right?
Right.
And Snoop Dogg, who to me is still going to be my favorite rapper of all time, just because I love the vibe of Snoop shit, like the Doghouse, right? Like that whole record is and I mean early Death Row stuff is so incredible. Like it's so good, and every damn record that Death Row put out until like 1997 or 98, every single one broke some shit. Like the Chronic, dude. Like, oh my god,
so good.
Like so unbelievable, right? But I love Snoop's vibes though. So and Snoop had some great lines and some great lyrics and all of that stuff. But you listen to Jay-Z because of the way he weaves it and the double and triple entendre, and you can listen to Eminem because technically he is so sound, right? But then you listen to the Chronic or the Dog Pound because you're like, oh my god, like I don't even care. Like it's what he's saying is second nature to. God damn, murder is the case that they gave me, right? Like, oh man, which I also always sing the Inspector Gadget theme over that. La, da, 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 Inspector Gadget.
I dig that,
and I keep going. That's a whole vibe right there,
It is.
G's and Hustlers, like, oh my god. So, but when we're talking about technique, that kind of brings us to our actual thing we're trying to talk about. God, you know what though? We sidebar, but I love sidebarring with you.
I mean,
dude.
That's our friendship. Our friendship is one giant sidebar.
I want to know if like the very first thing we ever talked about, if we never finished it and we sidebarred off that, and if everything we've ever done has just been a sidebar of a sidebar.
Well, we're never going to get back to that original subject.
Could you imagine if someone told us that, and if we finished it, and that would be the end of our friendship?
Like, and then we just start punching each other in the face.
Yeah. Like, oh, we're enemies now, sir.
Finally.
How dare they?
Yes.
You know what? In the words of Eminem, I think we should absolutely hold the fuck up right now. And I think we've been babbling about this forever.
Yeah.
So let's put a pin in this.
Okay. That's probably a good idea.
And let's come back to it, okay?
Yeah, we'll pick this up tomorrow or something.
Yeah, we'll pick it up where we left off. And dear listener, I know you're probably absolutely feeling our babbling, but I think for the sake of all sanity of all parties involved, we need to come back to this.
Yes.
So why don't we pick it up next week?
All right. That's a good call. We should do that.
All right. Well, you know what? This is the quickest outro we've ever done. We're just going to put a pin in it, and we're going to say next week, Eminem and all things hip-hop continue.
Yes.
Here on Nothing Good.
Nothing Good.
Later.
See you.